remember the ominous approach of Hurricane Dorian, a powerful Category 5 storm that struck the Bahamas in September 2019. For what seemed an eternity, Dorian held Abaco and Grand Bahama firmly in the bullseye of what would become the worst natural disaster ever to hit these islands. The toll on people and nature was catastrophic. In the storm's aftermath, Bonefish and Tarpon Trust mobilized quickly to assist friends across the fishing community. With your generous support, BTT provided nearly $500,000 to help fishing guides, lodge staff, and their families rebuild and recover. Now, on the one-year anniversary of this devastating storm, BTT takes another step in the journey, a step to restore a vital part of the flats. Dorian's record-setting winds pummeled the region's red mangroves, yet these walking trees held heaven and earth together to shield coastal communities and protect the fragile flats ecosystem, but at great price. In the days following the storm, the damage was painfully obvious. The once lush mangrove canopy looked more like a forest hit by wildfire or drought. Mangroves are an essential part of the seascape we fish. They serve as a buffer against storms, prevent coastal erosion, and provide rich habitat for bonefish and other marine life. A study by BTT revealed that vast expanses of Bahamian mangroves were impacted by Dorian. In all, an area of 35 square miles was damaged or destroyed, including nearly 74% of Grand Bahama's mangroves and more than 40% of abacos. Also lost in the storm were mangrove seed beds, blown out in many locations, yet critical to the regeneration of the system. Under the best of circumstances, it could take a decade or longer for these areas to recover on their own. Without the seeds of life contained in those beds, some may never make it, exposing the pristine flats to new threats. In partnership with the Bahamas National Trust and MANG, BTT is set to launch the largest mangrove restoration project in Bahamas history. As many as 25,000 mangrove propagules will be collected and transplanted in the hardest hit areas, and the crew doing this work will include local fishing guides, men and women who know these waters best and who have suffered through a major hurricane and global pandemic. This project builds on BTT's long-standing commitment to flats conservation in the Bahamas. Work that includes research to identify and protect bonefish habitats, restore creeks obstructed by roads and development, and teach students in Bahamian schools about the natural treasures that lie just beyond the classroom on the nearby flats. Bahamian waters also continued to be a living laboratory for world-class research over the past year. Among the remarkable new discoveries, BTT scientists documented the world's first complete track of a bonefish spawning aggregation, including their mind-bending dive to more than 400 feet as part of an elaborate and complex spawning ritual. For a species that lives in skinny water and rarely leaves its small home range, this was a first, not just for bonefish, but for science. These findings provide new insights into the complexity of bonefish spawning and important new information that will be helpful in protecting spawning areas. Meanwhile, in Florida, BTT presses on with a multifaceted program aimed at conserving bonefish, tarpon, and permit. These efforts focus simultaneously on the fish, their habitats, and the flats fisheries. In the Florida Keys, anglers are celebrating a resurgence of bonefish. Sustaining this trend will require strong conservation efforts in the future, both in Florida and other locations across the Caribbean that likely provide bonefish to the Keys. BTT's research suggests that Florida's bonefish are coming from spawns both within the Keys and from far distant locations, such as Belize and Mexico. These immigrants are carried to local waters by ocean currents. With fresh knowledge from spawning research in the Bahamas, BTT scientists in Florida have set their sights on finding long elusive bonefish spawning areas in the Keys, where a spawn hasn't been observed in decades. Homing in on these locations will enable BTT to advocate for their conservation. The trail grew warmer in 2019. A 24-inch female bonefish fitted with an acoustic tag left her home range on Big Pine Key in December 2019 and was later detected more than 30 miles away. Clearly, the full moon had lured her off the flats to spawn. Her journey helps scientists focus now on ever smaller stretches of water in an otherwise immense ocean. In turn, this draws us closer to identifying the most important spawning area for the Keys. Acoustic tagging was also a valuable tool in tarpon research last year, greatly enhancing our understanding of the species' behavior. BTT is in the home stretch of an ambitious 5-year project to tag 200 tarpon, moving from Florida's west coast across the Gulf of Mexico and north along the South Atlantic to the Chesapeake. The journeys of the Silver King, chronicled by this research, are rewriting the book on tarpon movements and habitat uses. And they already are helping to improve fisheries management. Earlier this year, data from the project were used to support an amendment to North Carolina's tarpon regulations. The measure passed in February, making the species catch and release in state waters. This ends the gallows image of migratory tarpon hanging high from state piers in summer. Going forward, this research will provide us with the most comprehensive view yet of tarpon behavior and recommend additional steps necessary to conserve the species.
Got him. Oh boy.
A slam on the flats isn't complete without permit. Permit are at the center of one of BTT's most urgent initiatives today. Using acoustic telemetry, scientists have recorded more than 500,000 sonic detections to document permit movement and spawning migrations. The results point to western dry rocks, a 1.3 square mile area 12 miles southwest of Key West, as the most important permit spawning location in the region. Unfortunately, research also shows that more than 1/3 of angled permit at western dry rocks are lost to predators, making even a catch and release fishery unsustainable at that site. Earlier this year, BTT met with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary to voice concerns about western dry rocks and call for a spawning season no fishing closure. An outpouring of support by BTT members and other stakeholders in the months that followed has elevated this issue for further review by FWC. Highlights from the past year include many more accomplishments, too numerous for tonight's logbook. From successful advocacy in support of Everglades restoration to ongoing efforts aimed at protecting imperiled flats habitats across the Caribbean. Despite the challenges of a global pandemic, your generous support and advocacy are sustaining BTT's mission.
Here it comes.
and helping to ensure better fishing in the future.